What's up, Gaming Nation? We are back with 7 Days to Die, and today I'm going to show you guys all the vehicles in 7 Days to Die. Now, number one thing that I want to discuss is when we talk about the vehicles, we want to talk about the perks. So obviously there's going to be perks that you need, and this is going to be one of the best ways to unlock most of these vehicles, and this is the normal way that most people are going to unlock the vehicles. Now, if we head over to the intellect skill tree, we need to put points into intellect in order to get the grease monkey. So this is where we're going to learn to build all the different vehicles. So number one, the tier 1 of all the vehicles is the bicycle. So this is going to require level 2 intellect, which is a little different than some of the other skills. So you do need to put 1 point into intellect before you can unlock the bicycle. The mini bike, being able to craft that, requires level 4 intellect plus 1 point to unlock this one. The motorcycle mechanic is level 6 intellect, and that allows you to craft the motorcycle. Now, we get into late game stage, you want to unlock the 4x4, which has a huge carrying capacity, which we'll talk about later. This one is unlocked with level 8 intellect plus the 4 levels to get up to this point. And finally, the last one, level 10 intellect, is going to grant you the ability to craft the Gyrocopter. So all of these vehicles require the wheel, which for me, depending on your gameplay, depending on a few playthroughs, the wheel has been the most important thing that I could not find for a long time. Now, the wheels you can craft in Alpha 19, and here it is on the menu. It takes 3 forged iron, 24 scrap polymers, 2 oil, 15 coal, and a bottle of acid. Now, most of these things you guys can find in the first few days. Shouldn't be too hard. Some tips: the forged iron is going to come from breaking down things with your wrench or making it at the forge. The scrap polymers, easiest way to get those is breaking down cardboard boxes. The oil is found a lot of times around the gas stations or also when you're breaking down cars. The coal is found best in the burnt biome or in any of the coal nodes that are around the world except for the desert. And a bottle of acid usually found breaking down a car or underneath sinks in the POIs. Okay, so let's look at the number 1, which is the bicycle. Alright, so what we need to craft the bicycle is you can get the perk, like I mentioned earlier, or if you happen to get lucky enough to get both schematics, for all the vehicles, there is a chassis schematic, in this case our bicycle chassis schematic, which teaches you how to craft that item, or the bicycle handlebars schematic, which allows you to craft that item. Now, you can also find the actual bicycle chassis and the bicycle handlebars in the game in certain POIs, usually something more like a gas station, one of the gas station boxes, or if you're really lucky, what I tend to personally try to find is a trader that is selling both the handlebars and the chassis at the same time, or 2 different traders that's selling it. So that's one way to get those. Whenever you guys get the chassis and the schematic, you should be able to craft those 2 items. When you actually want to go and assemble these items into the bike, you also have to have 2 wheels and 1 mechanical parts. Now, you guys also might be asking, how do I craft the actual items themselves? The bicycle handlebars is shown on screen here. 3 duct tape, 3 leather, 1 mechanical part, short iron pipe, 9 of them, 3 springs. The best way to get most of these items is breaking down items in a POI, especially the pipes and the springs you can get from breaking down beds. That's always a good thing. The bicycle chassis, whenever you want to make that, is 7 forged iron, 3 mechanical parts, 3 duct tape, 3 leather, and 3 spring. So in total, the bike's not that resource heavy, but it's also just a tier 1 bicycle. So in the bicycle, in the menu here, we've got the maintenance, which is refuel. In this case, we're not using any fuel. Repair, which you can actually use items to repair the bike if it becomes damaged. And there is modifier slots. The modifier slots aren't actually in game as of yet in Alpha 19, but could be coming soon in the future. If we notice, the durability is 1500, which is the same as your life points. You have 1500 life points. When it gets down to 0, the item would break, but of course you're going to be able to repair that. I will preface that by saying almost none of these vehicles, in my opinion and in my playthroughs, I've ever had to worry about repairing or breaking whatsoever. Usually these items are very durable. Now, the defense is 90, the noise is moderate, the seats obviously 1, and the gas obviously it's 0, taking down the gas. But the speed is the big thing you want to worry about. This is 10 meters per second, which is pretty slow. To be honest, when you're on the bike, if you're running, if I can start running here, if you're running, this is around the speed that your bicycle goes. It goes a little bit faster, but also the bicycle is the only one item or the one vehicle that also requires stamina when you're driving around. Now, it doesn't require stamina at first when you're just driving just normal, but when you start going faster, it does take away your stamina, which isn't necessarily the worst thing in the world, but it's not also the best either. So, holding the interact button, it brings up the storage. The storage in the bicycle has 9 slots, which isn't bad, especially for the beginning stages. 9 more items to carry compared to yours is something that's good. But remember, once you put an item into the storage, you cannot pick up the bicycle. And let me show you that now. If you have a horn, you can also take, which is just picking up the bicycle. Now, this is something that you might want to do if you go somewhere, like if you're going inside for a while and you don't want your bicycle sitting outside, or what tends to happen to me is I get stuck on a hill or something like that. You can pick up the bicycle. But remember, you can't pick it up if there's items inside of it. Otherwise, that would be way too game breaking. Let's be honest. So let's ride this thing. So when you get on the bike, you look like a complete dork. I love it. The controls are the same as when you're walking around. There's not really too much to do that's different. Doing this is just moving my mouse back and forth. And then when you start riding, you can go forward. If you notice, it's not taking in any stamina right now because all we're doing is just riding around in normal speed. So again, this is about the same, in my opinion, as when you're just walking or when you're just running. But of course, running takes stamina. Now, if we hit the shift key in my case and we go faster, you notice that it's actually taking some of our stamina down because we are going a lot faster, which is pretty nice. It's not too bad on the speed wise, especially in the beginning of the game. It'll definitely get you from trader to trader without too much issue, but it does take stamina. So it's definitely something to think about whenever you're riding this thing around. Now, one kind of thing that I personally don't like about the game is whenever you put the bike down, it'll stay up straight. But anytime you get off the bike in any of the vehicles that have a ability to fall, they always fall. It's a little annoying. I wish the bike would stay straight up, but hey, we're in the apocalypse. A kickstand might not be the number one thing that we're worried about. Alright guys, next up on the list is the mini bike. Now this is something that I personally always go for in my playthroughs. This is usually, I try to get a mini bike first. I usually don't like to get the bicycle just because the amount of resources it takes to make the bicycle compared to the mini bike, in my opinion, just isn't that much different. And personally, I like the mini bike. It goes a lot faster and it doesn't have the added stamina use that the bicycle does. So from here on out, we don't have to worry about stamina, even if we're putting our foot on the pedal and going a little bit faster. So the mini bike. The mini bike is the exact same. It has a handlebar schematic and then also a chassis schematic. You can also find these two items, the mini bike, handlebars, and the chassis, in the game, usually again closer to the gas stations and other items like that. You can buy them from traders, which is always a good thing. The mini bike, once you have these two items, it does require a lead battery, a wheel, 2 of them, and an engine. So the engine is easily found by breaking down cars with a wrench, which is why one of my first goals in the day, like by 1 to 3, is to get a wrench from underneath a sink somewhere. And as soon as you get a wrench, start breaking down cars. That'll get you the battery, the engine, a bunch of mechanical parts, leather, pretty much everything that you need to craft the vehicles by breaking down vehicles, which is super nice. Okay, so you guys want to know how to create the actual items themselves. So in this case, the mini bike chassis on screen here, it takes 15 forged iron. I believe the bike was like 9 or 10, so not much different. 6 mechanical parts, 6 duct tape, 6 leather, 1 electrical part. Again, most of these items you can find by breaking down other cars. The mini bike handlebars is 6 mechanical parts, 3 springs, 1 headlight, 3 electrical parts, and 9 short iron pipes. The headlight and all of these items actually can be found by breaking down cars, which again, in my opinion, is the best way to do it. By the time that you start breaking down cars and get the battery and the engine, you're most likely going to have all the handlebars, springs, headlights, electrical parts, everything that you need by the time you get that battery and engine, which usually takes anywhere from 10 to 20 cars in my personal experience. So the mini bike is the exact same. You can open it to view its durability, which is a lot higher. It's actually double the bicycle, 3,000 durability. The speed is 10 meters per second, which is the same as the bicycle. However, again, it doesn't take stamina, which is really, really nice. The noise is moderate, so it's a little bit higher on the noise factor than the bicycle for obvious reasons. Defense of 90, seats 1, of course, again. The gas at this time says 0%. We can actually use this refill option to put gas into our mini bike. We can repair it as well, and again, the modifier slots are not currently in Alpha 19. You can still pick up the motorbike and you can lock it if you're in multiplayer, and the storage for this one is 27. So the bicycle had just 9, so just the top row. This one has 2 extra rows, so 18 more storage, which is really, really good, especially in the early game. This is one of the vehicles that you want to use, and you're actually able to double loot places and then go home and drop off all your stuff or sell it to a trader before you have to turn around midway through a POI. So this storage is really, really good, especially for how quickly you can get a mini bike together. It takes 1,000 gas to refill it to full, and personally, I don't think it goes through gas that bad. It's actually really, really nice as far as the gas consumption. So the controls, again, are the exact same. You can use your mouse to look around and move in different directions. So this is the regular speed, which is supposedly the same as the bicycle. I probably agree. It does feel a little slow. I think it's the engine makes me feel like it should be going faster. So this is the normal speed, and then let's go ahead and turn on the shift button in my case, which means it's going a little bit faster. And you can definitely see that it does go a little bit faster. When you're holding down the faster button, which in my case is shift, it does actually use up a little bit more gas if you notice, but this one goes around really fast and there's no stamina loss. So you can literally drive up to a zombie, get off, have full stamina to then start beating the heck out of it. Alright, next up is my personal favorite, and for a lot of people, including myself, this is basically my end game vehicle because of reasons I'll disclose in a little bit later. But the motorcycle, it looks perfect. It looks amazing. It looks like it was literally built for this game and this world. So the motorcycle, of course, just like everything else, it's got the schematic for the handlebars. It's got the schematic for the chassis. You can find and buy these 2 items in loot as well throughout the world. Now, I would say these are a little bit more rare to find, but personally, I have been able to get a motorcycle as early as day 3 in my current Alpha 19 playthrough. So, definitely something that I would say it's not impossible. In my case, I actually ended up buying both of these parts from 2 different traders. But once you have the motorcycle, you also need an engine, a battery, and also 2 wheels, of course, to create that. Now, if you're wondering, with the motorcycle, the handlebars is 15 mechanical parts, 15 duct tape, which is a pretty big ask in the early game, 1 headlight, 9 electrical parts, and this one actually requires steel to make, which is one of the biggest things that you see a lot of people running around on the mini bike compared to the motorcycle when they're in the early to mid game, because getting the crucible to then make steel is definitely a pretty big ask in the first 2 to 3 hordes. Now, the motorcycle chassis is 37 forged steel, which is pretty expensive if you're buying it, or pretty hard to find if you're just looking around for it and you don't have the crucible yet. There's 15 mechanical parts, 15 duct tape, 15 leather, and 4 electrical parts. So the motorcycle is definitely one of them that's a little bit harder to create yourself. For number one, you have to have 3 levels in intellect just for the motorcycle itself. And then you also have, I think, level 5 is what I said before. So it's a pretty good amount of perk points to use, but also very expensive to make, which is why personally I will always try to buy it compared to making it. So the motorcycle, the options are the exact same. You can open it up to refuel. It takes 2,500 to refuel. The durability is doubled from the mini bike, so instead of 3,000, it is 6,000. It's 14 meters per second, which is considered fast in the game. The noise is moderate, just like the mini bike. The defense is 90. The seats are, of course, 1. And the refuel, apparently I have to refuel twice, it takes 3,000 gas to refill this one to 100%. You can repair it, and again, the mod slots are not in Alpha 19 currently. Now, the storage for this one is where I personally love it. The storage is 36 slots. So instead of just being the 3 like the mini bike, it has 1 extra, which personally, I wish it had 2 extra, but you know what? There's so much storage. Honestly, in my opinion, the mini bike should have 2, and then this one should have the 4, but hey, I'm not hating on it. Personally, if I had the mini bike and playthrough, I appreciate the 3 lines. 36 inventory slots is basically almost what you can carry. So it is like having a partner. It's like when you are in Skyrim and you play that game and you get a follower. Like personally, I get a follower just to walk around with me to hold all my stuff. I don't want him to fight. I don't want him to do anything. Just hold my stuff. That's what this vehicle's for. It's perfect. Now, let's get on this puppy. So, getting on the bike, it is a lot better, a lot faster for sure, and the controls are the exact same when you're looking around to do the different angles, and the same ones that you use to move. Alright, so let's come around here. This is the normal speed, which in my opinion is about as fast as the motorcycle's regular, or the motorcycle's double speed. So this is the normal speed. It feels a little bit slow, to be completely honest, but it's not that bad at all. Now, if we hold down the shift key in my case, this is the better speed. This is the pedal to the metal, and it definitely picks up a little bit faster. Now, one thing I will say on this is the motorcycle, as you keep going straight for longer, it actually does get a little bit faster, or it feels like it does. Maybe it's just me, maybe it's just my game loading, but it feels like it gets faster, and it has to kind of take a little bit of time to get that faster. All right, guys, next up is the 4x4 truck. Now, this thing, it's a beast. It is a beast, that's for sure. It looks exactly like it should be. It looks like it's prepared for the world. I like the little touches with the chains on the front. You know, it's pretty neat. It looks really cool. To me personally, I like using the motorcycle better because I feel like it just handles better and it's easier to maneuver and stuff. But the 4x4 is a beast for sure. Now, the 4x4, this is where instead of handlebars, we go into accessories. So this one has the truck accessories schematic, and then also the truck chassis schematic, just like the other vehicles. Now, again, both of these are items that you can find in the game, definitely way later stage in game, but you can also buy them from traders. I have seen them on day 1 or day 2 at different traders, so it's definitely something you can buy, but it's very expensive to purchase from the traders, so you probably aren't going to be able to afford the cash when they have it on those early days. Now, the truck putting this together takes the accessories, the chassis, 1 battery, 1 engine, and 4 wheels. Even though, in my opinion, there is the 5th wheel right here, the spare. Would be kind of neat if they made you do 5 wheels. It would just be a funny thing, but kind of an annoying thing at the same time. But that's just me. I'm just being too much. Now, if you guys are interested, making the 4x4 truck accessories does take a pretty good amount of things. 49 electrical parts, 8 headlights, 75 iron pipes, which is pretty huge. Only 6 springs, 24 mechanical parts. Now, if you're doing this at a late game stage, mid to late game stage, you're probably not going to have a big problem getting those items, and you probably already have them sitting in your storage somewhere. Now the chassis is where it really comes into play, that you need to be at a certain level to make this item. The chassis requires 375 forged steel. Now that can take days to just make if you have the iron laying around with the crucible, so it's a huge ask, and if you were to buy that from traders, it's a huge chunk of money. 60 mechanical parts, 30 duct tape, 60 leather, and 24 electrical parts. So again, making this is a mid to late game stage thing that you're usually doing, but personally, I think trying to buy the chassis and roll around with the motorcycle a little bit longer if you have to is worth it compared to spending all of that steel to make the 4x4 truck. But that's just my opinion. Now, the truck is just like everything else. You can open it to see the items here. In this case, the durability goes from 6,000 on the motorcycle to 7,500 on the durability of this truck. The speed is 14 meters per second, which is the same as the motorcycle. The noise is moderate, defense 90, seats 1, which is odd because actually in multiplayer it does seat 2, which is kind of a weird thing that it shows just 1. The gas needed to refuel this thing is 10,000 gas, all the way to 100%. So it takes a lot of gas, and I think, in my opinion, it uses gas pretty good as well. But overall, it's not bad. It's not much worse than the motorcycle, in my opinion, but it definitely is a gas guzzler. I mean, look at the thing. It's got 2 big stacks in the back. The modifier slots, of course, again, are not currently in Alpha 19. Now, you can also, of course, pick this up and put it in your pocket if you want, because why not? Now, probably the biggest thing is the storage. Okay. This vehicle has 81 storage. This vehicle has more storage than your character does. It is insane the amount of storage this thing has. It has the same amount of storage as your storage chest, I'm pretty sure. It's insane. You can go on 3 different raids if you wanted to and still have inventory to burn. This thing is amazing for storage, which is definitely a good thing that you want to say, hey, maybe I could upgrade from the bike, which only has, 30 something compared to this one. It's a huge upgrade in storage. All right, let's try this puppy out. So let's get in. It sounds good. It does sound good. It sounded like it was going somewhere, and I wasn't going anywhere. But let's check this thing out. So this is just the normal speed, which I think because of the actual noise, it sounds like it's going faster than the motorcycle was. But if you look and kind of compare the videos and everything, it's definitely not going any faster than the motorcycle was. So this is the same speed as the motorcycle. But let's get on the road out here, and I will show you guys the vehicle when it's going fast. So here's the normal. If we hold the shift button, in my case, this is the turbo, so to speak, and this is it going just a little bit faster. So this is the same speed as the motorcycle. It just sounds like it's going a heck of a lot faster. And there's a lot more to move, so I kind of understand that. Also, like the motorcycle, in my opinion, it does seem to get a little bit faster as you go just a little bit further. And as you keep going, especially straight, it's going to get just a little bit faster each time, in my opinion. Now, having this huge front end, I think it's definitely time to run over a zombie. So let's go find one, and let's see if we can run somebody over. And here's our little friend. Now this vehicle does do damage to the zombies, if you can't hear him already getting upset about it. And that's the 4x4. Alright guys, so next up is the one, the only, the Gyrocopter. Now this thing is interesting. It takes a certain player. It takes a certain player to love the gyrocopter. Now, I will say there's really, really good things about the gyrocopter, and in my opinion, there's really, really bad things as well. So let's check the gyrocopter out. To build the gyrocopter, it's very similar to the 4x4, and it has gyrocopter accessories. So there's the accessory schematic, the accessories themselves, and the actual chassis, just like all the other vehicles, and then the actual chassis itself. When you put this together, just like the other ones, it requires an engine and a battery, and this one just requires 3 of the wheels. So it's a little bit cheaper to make wheel-wise compared to the 4x4. But I just want to add a small disclaimer there. With the gyrocopter, a lot of people will have a motorcycle or a 4x4 or something also with them, so where you can fly to a certain area, land it, and then get out with the other vehicle and drive that one around. So that's an option as well. So you guys might be asking, how do we make this? So the gyrocopter accessories is a pretty big list. It's got 49 electrical parts, 8 headlights, 75 iron pipes, 15 mechanical parts, and 6 springs. The gyrocopter chassis is another huge one for the steel, but it is a lot less than the 4x4. It requires 187 forged steel, 60 mechanical parts, 37 duct tape, 60 leather, and 30 mechanical parts. So again, if you're in that mid to late game stage, this is something that you might be able to craft by yourself, and it might not be too much of a pain, assuming that you find the schematics and everything. But the forged steel is definitely still a pretty big ask for a lot of people. Alright, so let's take a look at the gyrocopter. Just like the other vehicles, it has the durability on this one is actually the same as the motorcycle at 3,000. So it's a little bit less a lot less durability than the 4x4, but I mean it is a gyrocopter. You know, I kind of understand that. The speed is 15 meters per second, so it's actually 1 meter per second faster than the motorcycle and the 4x4. The noise is moderate, the defense 90, seats 1, and 0% on the gas right now, so we can refuel it and repair it. Again, the mod slots do not work on this one. The fuel is actually really, really cheap for this vehicle. It took 2,000 gas to refill this one, which is not bad at all. The gyrocopter, in my opinion, goes through gas kind of just like the motorcycle. It's not too bad, but there's a few tips and tricks out there if you watch YouTube where you can actually get it to use basically 0 gas, but I'm not going to go over that one in this episode. You can also pick this huge thing up and throw it in your pocket if you'd like by using the take option or lock in multiplayer. The storage on this one is actually a little bit less than the 4x4, but it is 45 storage, which is, I think, 9 more than the motorcycle. So it's still a good amount of storage. But again, personally, what I would personally recommend is to take the motorcycle with you, pick it up, put it in this vehicle, because that's obviously easy to do. And then when you land somewhere, pull out your motorcycle, drive that around, get your POIs done, whatever it is, empty it into here, and then put it all back in there. So let's take a ride. So the gyrocopter, you can use the whatever arrow keys that you use to move around with. So you can go backwards, you can go forwards, you can go left, right, etc. When you go forwards, that's when the wheels and the rotors start actually working. Now this is something that you don't want to happen when you're riding the vehicle. If something like this does happen and you can't get it out of it, just press your normal key to get out of it. You can hold the gyrocopter, you can take it, and then you can just put it right back down. One thing I would recommend with the gyrocopter is making sure that it's in an area where you have a good clean landing strip so you can actually get a good run at it. So let's do this. Let's put her down, facing hopefully the right way. And let's get back in it. So again, you want to go forward. In my case, I hold the space bar, and that raises me up into the air. So in my case, I use the space bar to go ahead and lift me up into the air once you obviously start getting enough speed. You can use the up and down arrows to kind of maneuver yourself, and then just fly all day long. So the nice thing about flying in this thing is you can get a very good advantage point over a lot of things. Personally, I like to fly around this height to where I can still make out the POIs and you can actually see what they are. Again, the up gives you just a little bit more higher view. I can use the spacebar to keep going up myself and then kind of level everything out. Now, landing this thing is another story. Personally, I like to make sure that I'm kind of coming in at a slow pace. It's not like a helicopter where you can just hover and then just land. So you got to make sure that you're actually going down in the right areas. So let's try to land this thing. So in my case, I'm using my spacebar to go up and to kind of point my nose up, and then also the C button to go down a little bit. So it's definitely something that you have to work on. It's definitely something to get very used to because it does take a good amount of time to get used to it. What I personally like to do once you get somewhere, I don't want to land there for instance, is I kind of like to let it kind of level out. And then as it's going down, let's go and see if we can park it in our little parking spot. When you get really close, especially lower to the ground, if you hit your jump out button, you can kind of land it exactly where you are, which is kind of nice. But remember with the gyrocopter, if you do press your enter or E button or whatever button is that you use to get into your vehicle, if you press it while you're in the sky, you will fall down and most likely you will die. One tip, if that happens, when you guys hit that on accident and you're like, oh no, I did that, look at your gyrocopter, and depending on how far you get away or how quickly you notice, if you hit your key again to get into it, sometimes even if you fall out of the vehicle, you can jump right back into it and then keep on going. Also, another tip is to use the oh shits drops whenever you're riding the gyrocopter. Maybe keeping that on your hotbar, especially when you're first getting used to it, might also be a great idea. So one of the things that I said before is I want to take my motorcycle. Again, remember it has to be empty in order to pick it up. And then I want to go into my gyrocopter, go into my storage, and I'm going to put my gas and my motorcycle in here. Now what I can do is I can take my gyrocopter, go fly to another town, land my gyrocopter somewhere in the middle of the town, get my motorcycle out of it, drive my motorcycle around the town, find whatever items I need, putting it in my motorcycle. When I get back to the gyrocopter, empty everything back out, pick up my motorcycle, and then I'm good to fly back to the other town. Guys, that is everything that you guys should need to know about vehicles in Alpha 19 7 Days to Die. If you guys have any questions, please put them in the comments down below. If you liked the video, drop a like. If you loved it, consider subscribing. And thank you guys so much. Have a good day. Peace.